99% of consultants are chasing clients and money. The problem is they don't have a strategy or a plan in place. So in this video, what I'm going to do is walk you through a few of the fundamentals, the keys that will help you to rise above your competition when you put them into practice. Number one, be very specific. I know it's counterintuitive, but less is more and focus is key in the business of consulting, especially when you are a solo consultant or a small firm owner. It is critical that you go narrow. And what I'm referring to here is that you really narrow down who your ideal client is, that you really think about what is the main problem that you are best at solving, and that you don't try and be all things to all people or offer tons of different services. Now, it's much harder to be known for any one thing if you're talking to the market that you can do a lot of different things, right? This is the classic generalist versus specialist. And you can find all kinds of people saying that being a generalist is better and being a specialist is better, right? There's pros and cons to each, but the reality is that when you're starting, and when I say starting, I don't mean actually starting your consulting business. I mean really starting to build your business and take it to that next level if you are a solo consultant or a small firm owner. If you have 10 different services, if you have a big kind of laundry list of here's everything we can do for you, you end up not being known for anything because you're trying to be known for too many things, right? If you think about how the human mind works and how most people remember things, if you say that you do one thing, that's what people remember. If you say that you do A, B, C, D, E, and you keep going, it's harder for the person that you met to remember those things. They might remember one of them, they might not remember any of them because they're so confused about everything that you've said to them. And it's the same thing about if you're going to the market with too much, you end up not really being known for anything. And so this goes to the next point, which is when you be very specific, you also start to position yourself as the expert in your industry. While the others around you might be saying, we do this and we do that, if you're very specific about who you help or the industry that you work in, the problems you solve, the results that you create, and you create a body of work around that, meaning articles, podcasts, videos, social, whatever it is that you're doing that is helping you to really communicate value and to demonstrate your knowledge, your skill set, your authority, your expertise, right? All of that around a specific body of work, a specific focus. Again, specific is the key word here, right? Not general, not broad, not wide. Then you become known for something. Therefore, you are viewed as the expert. And experts, as everyone knows, and you yourself likely understand as well, that experts can command higher fees. In fact, the marketplace is already used to paying more for expertise. All of us in our own lives have probably experienced the same thing, that when you're going to, for example, a general practitioner doctor, you're usually going to pay less. And depending on where you live in the world, you might not pay anything. But in terms of how much that person earns, they'll usually earn less than, for example, a brain surgeon, right? The level of expertise, solving a more specific, challenging problem, you might say, compared to a very broad range of lesser problems. I don't mean lesser from the medical sense. Obviously, there's all kinds of issues that people go to a general doctor for, but I hope you get the idea of what I'm referring to here. And I know a common kind of counter or concern with this is, well, won't leave a lot of opportunity on the table. You know, there's a lot of things that I could do to help people. And I understand that, but the reality, right? The fact that, and the observation that we've seen in building multiple consulting businesses over 2 decades and working literally with thousands of consultants through Consulting Success and our Clarity Coaching program is that, number one, you don't need that many clients to have a very successful consulting business. And so people often overestimate the number of clients and opportunities that they need in order to have not only a viable, but to have a thriving consulting business, right? The average consulting firm works with between 6 and 20 clients per year. That might be more depending on your price point and size of your company, but you're not talking about needing hundreds or thousands of clients in any given year to reach your income goals. Therefore, you can actually be much more powerful by showing up as the solution, the expert for a much smaller kind of target group. And that makes you appear as the best for them. Therefore, you're more likely to generate business from that. But the second part of that is that if you look at more established, well-known, recognized consulting firms, and oftentimes consultants will say, Michael, but look at fill in the blank, McKinsey, Accenture, BCG, so forth. Okay, don't they offer all these different services and have all these different capabilities? And therefore, that's a proven model, like hundreds of millions plus per year in revenues and so forth. Shouldn't I be doing that? And the answer is no, because that's not what they did when they started. That's what they're doing today, because they've built up to have essentially many smaller companies within one company, right? Each department, each area of capability has kind of experts or people focusing in on that one area. But when you look back at those companies and how they got started, they almost all got started with a very central focus. And as they built the business and had more people people, more infrastructure, more capability, more capacity, they started to and were able to increase and expand their offering. So number one, be very specific. Number two is for you to become world-class. And this ties directly into what I've just been sharing with you. But the way that I like to kind of frame this and some of the guidance that we provide to our clients in the Clarity Coaching Program is to think about what is one problem that you can become world-class at solving, right? Not 5 problems, not 10 problems, not I can do a whole bunch of different things, but what is one problem that you truly believe, or even better, that you know that your ideal clients are facing? It's painful, it's acute, they want to solve it ideally now. And they've likely been thinking about solving it, maybe even tried things to solve it. They've tried internally, they've tried externally, but for whatever reason, they don't have the solution yet. So what is that one problem that you can become really, really great at? And therefore, what is the one solution to that one problem? So if you've identified that your ideal clients have X problem, and you know that not the whole market, but a large part of the market, enough to make your business very, very successful, that's a present issue. It's a problem that a lot of people want solved, and you have the best solution for it, or you have at least a really compelling world-class solution to that one problem. Your whole business now becomes much easier to manage because you don't have to think through all the different ways that you could solve that problem and all the different problems you could potentially solve. You become the expert in solving the one problem with the one solution. And you might say, isn't that too simple? But in fact, if you look at a lot of businesses around the world in all different kinds of industries, they usually are solving one main problem, and they start off by solving it with one main solution. They don't need 10 different solutions for one problem, and they don't need necessarily one thing for 10 different problems, right? So try and simplify your business and really think, what can I become world-class at? The next part of this is that you might think, again, that is going to hold you back from achieving greater growth. But I've seen this time and time again in our own business, as well as with many clients, is that if you solve one main problem and you have really one solution, you are world-class at delivering and solving that problem. And it's a painful problem, it's a complex problem, it's a valuable problem to solve. You can, I won't say easily, but in a simple manner, because we've seen, again, from so many people over the years that we've worked with, you can reach $1 million per year. You can reach $2 million, even $3 million per year, and sometimes more, just by solving one problem with one main solution. So you don't, to have a 7 or a multi-7-figure business, you actually don't need as many offers and, ideas and services and so forth as you might think that you do. All right, let's talk about number 3. So the third fundamental kind of concept here that I want to share with you is don't get bogged down. And what I mean by that is it's very easy. I think you've probably experienced in one form or another this concept or the idea of the shiny object syndrome, right? There's a lot of tools, especially now with AI, right? There's lots of stuff out there that is exciting to think about. And you can see videos about it. You can hear people talking about it. Essentially, you can be drawn into the excitement and the allure of using these things. And so the technology, the tools, the systems, the automations, like all this stuff, you can see, you can make the case in your mind logically of how this will add great value to your business, how it'll make your life easier, how it'll make it more efficient and effective, so on and so forth. The problem is that many of these tools and automations and services aren't actually necessary until you actually reach 7 figures and beyond, meaning $1 million plus. In some cases, you don't need that many tools to have a $1 million, $2 million business. And so what I see quite often is that people overcomplicate business building. And especially because there's a lot of great people out there in terms of great marketers, they know how to market to you. They get you excited about their product or service or tool or technology or automation. They're great at storytelling. They're great at, getting you wanting to use that. But the challenge is, number one, again, you usually don't need it right then and there. Like, it can add value for you, but to learn that tool and to take the time to get it set up and use it consistently, that takes time. And that means it takes time for you to do that away from the things that actually matter. For example, focusing on having conversations with buyers. So consider that, right? Of course, there's expense in terms of buying tools, setting them up, and it could add up to thousands of dollars that you're spending on tools. But if those tools or services or automations or technology, if they're not really solving a key problem in your business, if there's some way that you can kind of get around it, for example, using a spreadsheet or using one service instead of maybe 3 services or tools right away, then keep using those, keep using what's working for you until it really gets to a point where it's breaking. And then at that point, explore, is there some way to solve this, to kind of patch it up right now? Or are we at a point in our business where it actually makes sense for us to make a significant investment of time and money to have a bigger, more robust solution? But the danger, right, is if you don't do it in the way I'm referring to, if you kind of go too quickly into just throwing new tools and stuff into your business, you end up spending a lot of time trying things, setting them up, trying to learn them. You find they don't actually work as well as you want to. They don't really solve the main problem that you have in your business. And so you just start to kind of collect this technology debt, if you will, that is a burden, right? It's a heavy load and it's not really adding much value for you. All right, so let's talk about the fourth fundamental. And that is really just like the overall fundamentals of running a consulting business, which the first thing I'd say is getting in front of your ideal clients. Well, how do you do that? Many different ways that you can, but you want to make sure that you are on the radar of your ideal clients. They need to know that you exist and they need to know what you stand for, which means they need to know what are the problems that you solve and what are the solutions that you use. But the most important thing is they need to know that if I have the X problem or if I want Y result, that this person or this company is a leader in that space. So how do you get to that position? Well, you get to that position through content, meaning writing articles, doing videos like this, going on podcasts, speaking at events, delivering online trainings for associations, doing outreach where you share valuable information with ideal clients. And you don't just do this once. You don't just do it for a season. You don't just do it for one campaign. This is a fundamental part, like a cog in the engine, that if you remove the cog, the engine won't run optimally. And it might still run for a period, but after a while, it'll start to break down. The next part, and I actually just did a session on this with clients inside of our Clarity coaching program in one of our groups, and this was follow-up, right? If you think about the business that comes to you in a shorter period of time, right? It's maybe, call it, I'll just give it a number, like this circle, right? I'll call it and say this is a size of 10. But when you look at, and if you're doing follow-up consistently, if you have a system for follow-up and you have the right frequency, the right approach for follow-up, and we teach all this inside of our Clarity program, you can go from 10 to 50 to 100. You can increase the size and the potential pool of business. You increase the likelihood of people reaching out to you and responding to you and the number of leads, right? And overall conversations you're going to have every single week and every single month. Follow-up is massive, yet it's one of these areas that a lot of consultants neglect. They get busy either with existing client work and delivery, or they just forget because they're working on other things, right? They don't have good reminders. They don't have somebody managing it. They don't have a system. They don't have a proper CRM. Lots of different ways to set up a system, but the main thing is you need to have that, and you really should be doing follow-up consistently. Even if you're just using a spreadsheet to start, that's better than not doing it at all. So when you do these things consistently, this is what really makes the difference. This is how you can rise up beyond 99% of consultants out there who are neglecting and not paying attention to some of the fundamental, I'd say very well-established, proven methods, approaches, mindsets, actions, tactics that lead you to growing a consulting business in a much more strategic way. If you want to see some examples of consultants who have applied these fundamentals into their business and how it's helped them to go to the next level, there should be a link below this video. Click on that and you can see plenty of examples of how people have put these kinds of concepts into practice in their consulting business and how it's helped them to grow to that next level.